Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we're looking at the Breen attack fighter. So, going through like my Decipher book, I don't have anything on here myself. Uh, Looking around, the only places I could actually find this is actually on D6 Holocron and on Memory Alpha. It looks like the write-up that they did on D6 Holocron is the same from Memory Alpha, so we'll scroll on down here and then we'll just take a quick peek and read off what we have. So the description here is the Breen attack fighter is a type of attack fighter used by the Breen Confederacy during the 24th century. The Breen fighter was a large craft that required a crew of two. It was also capable to transport up to 10 people. As well, if necessary, it was shaped like the elongated T with a fork at the fore to the main body, which was well suited for ramming attacks. Moderately armed, it was designed to support larger Breen warships and for dogfighting with enemy fighters. So, that's really all we have on this. Honestly, I don't really remember the ship itself. Now, it took me a little while just trying to find this one, and I don't remember exactly where I got it from and who had done this. But this is the best picture I had gotten, so this is what we have. All right, so just kind of bringing it into our D6 universe here. It is an attack fighter. It's going to be a starfighter scale. Has a length of 45.3 meters, a width of 12.54 meters, and a height of 4.87 meters. It's only about 2.8 metric tons. It's a ship size category 2, so this fits in a shuttle uh, designation as far as size category. So you could, in a lot of the Star Trek role playing games, you can use or a ship that is a size 1 or size 2 would be typically able to fit into a shuttle bay. So we could just, for game terms, you could say it's a size 2, so we can fit it into a shuttle. Don't worry about the actual size of it. It's just a game, so we'll have fun with it. All right. The skills that you would be using would be space transports. Has an autopilot of 3D. As mentioned, it has a crew of two, but a crew of one can handle this with a +5 difficulty. So, um, trying to rationalize this. So, I mean, in the D6 universe, it's +5. If you're trying to use something like this in Modifius, because they just came out with a newer book, and that's the current holder for the license and all that, that would be, I would say, probably a one extra die roll that you would need. So if you're saying a standard would be just to fly it, maybe a one just to fly it, because this could be kind of commonplace. So you'd need one success. I'd say you'd probably need two successes for this if you're piloting it by yourself. So you can easily kind of change things and make it work. The more experience you get, I mean, if you're experienced with doing role playing games, I'm sure you kind of notice how a lot of that stuff kind of works out. So just kind of adding that in there. And of course, it's got listed here for 10 passengers. We do not have any cargo capacity listed for the ship. Consumables is going to be for 1 week. We have our warp drive. A standard is going to be 4. We can hit a 7.4 for what should be our max, but we can really kind of stretch it out to an 8.6 for 6 hours. Of course, because it's the Star Trek universe, everything's going to have a nav computer, or pretty much everything. You know, I think we do find some ships later on in like the next generation that don't, and usually it's considered uh, kind of a lower technology kind of civilization. But to be honest, if you just have a intersystem planetary freighter, there's no reason why it couldn't just have someone that doesn't, or have a ship that doesn't have a nav computer because it wouldn't fully need it. But on the other hand, throwing a nav computer in, even for an inner system uh, kind of ship or whatever, is essentially having an auto drive feature or something like that. So um, even then, it would, it'd be, you could do it without, but it'd make it a lot easier for kind of freighter captains to have one. All right, so we do have a maneuverability of 2D plus one. It's listing the space movement of 9 in combat. So you should be able to move about, let's say, like 900 meters, or five, what would it be? Yeah, roughly like 900 kilometers an hour, or whatever. I'm thinking that should equivalent to that, but atmosphere wise, we can go 1,150 kilometers an hour. Um, Hull wise, we have a 3D, so it is a little bit above where our average should be, of about a 2D. So it is a little bit more resilient in that regard, so that's always pretty good. We have shields of 2D. Our sensor packet, so we have passive scans that is only a plus one. I mean, this is a fighter. It's not really a science vessel, but you can go out to 3 kilometers. We can do an active scan out to 8 kilometers at a plus two. We can do an active search out to 12 kilometers with a 1D plus one bonus, and a focus out to 500 meters at a plus 1D plus two bonus to it. All right, so it does have a cloaking device, which adds a 2D difficulty to detect a ship when it's cloaked. And the fact that how Holocron has done this in comparison to, because if you're doing the D6, most people are going to borrow from the old Star Wars. It really does a better job at explaining a cloaking device. You can always detect a cloaking device, but it is at a higher difficulty. So, kind of throwing it in that regard. Okay, we do have weapons. There are two Type 7 disruptor cannons, and these are one's forward and one's aft. Let's see, fire control is 1D plus 1, has a rate of fire of 3 and damage of 7D plus 1. Now keep in mind this is at Starfighter scale, so when you go to your capital class vessels, it'll be down to a 5D plus 1. All right, your photon torpedo launcher, we have one, and it is a forward, but because photon torpedoes are typically self-guided, has a fire control of 1D plus 1. We have 20 Type 2 photon torpedoes, has a spread of 4, so that means you could shoot 4 photon torpedoes out at one time, and it does 10D damage each torpedo. So, the torpedoes are really where things get kind of hairy in the Star Trek universe, uh, especially when you compare kind of from where our try to say it in the correct sense here. Um, when you compare it to like Star Wars, the concussion missiles and the uh, proton torpedoes or whatever do more damage typically, but really we're seeing that a little bit more here with the Star Trek. Of course, on a ship this size, you would normally be looking at a micro torpedo launcher and not a standard. So, this is pretty robust for a small craft like this. Okay, we also have a Beta class tractor beam. It's forward, has a fire control of plus two, strength of 5D plus two to try and latch onto something to tow it along with. We have crew quarters. We have six Spartan sleeping quarters, and there's one deck. So I'm going to guess that that's essentially just there's six beds on a rack that probably fold up or something like that. Uh, that's my guess. There's only one deck. Has 20 escape pods. I think that's a little outrageous for this, with a capacity of four each. Maximum life support for 80. You know, I mean, it does have some size here, but to say there's 20 escape pods in here, that seems a little overboard to me. I'm just being honest. I mean, it's what they have, and I'll run with it. It's game stats, so we can always have fun with it. But I think 20 is a little a little on the high side. Honestly, if we're saying that you're typically only going to have 10 people on there, um, maybe three, four, maybe if you had it even, two on each side or something like that. Um, but not 20. But there again, and I'm just taking a wild guess here because whenever I do this stuff, I always try to find something that's similar as to what I'm going to use, so that way maybe I don't have to change as many things, but I do have to change to make it whatever this ship is. Um, so in that regard, they may have taken a different ship or whatever and says, okay, well, we're going to change here, here, and here. And then when it got to escape pods, maybe they forgot to change that. But either way, it's what they have here, so no big deal. All right, so this is commissioned in the mid 24th century due to Earth reckoning. We do have one transporter bay, has a capacity for four persons. We have one cargo transporter that can move 200 kilograms, which is funny that we have a cargo transporter, but they don't have any cargo listed. Um, Cargo capacity is none. Maybe, I'm going to change this, and this is copied right out of their stuff. So um, this gets a little harder because I've got everything kind of jerry rigged here, and I guess I probably will for a little while here. But if I can get everything working. All right, why don't we put a 2-ton cargo capacity on here? Because that also accounts for, um, like, if they wanted to beam extra people up. So hopefully you're kind of getting where I'm going on this, because it did say that we have, let's see, life support for 80 people. So if we were to actually transport extra people up, we can have people sandwiched in there for a small amount of time just to get them to safety. And I think a 2-ton cargo capacity would give us just barely enough room for that. So this is now deviated a little bit from what D6 Holocron has had because I changed it. Just heading in there because if we have a cargo transporter, I think we need a little bit of room. Now, I'm not giving it a lot of room, but I am giving it a little bit of room. All right, and we do have 5 probes for any scientific missions. Um, it's one of those things we don't really see a lot from the Breen, except for they're used as stock troops to help out the Dominion as a different force. Um, so in that regard, uh, we don't know as much as we could about them. So especially in games or whatever else, we could always use them as another boogeyman, or kind of like what we did with the Klingons, who were the original kind of boogeymen, main adversaries or whatever. We can expand on them and whatever in game terms and stuff like that. So, um, you know, in some regards, it'd be interesting to see what other people do for the Breen if they flesh out the Breen Society a little bit more. One of the things I have not grabbed out of here, or a couple things, is they do have on D6 Holocron stats for the different races and all that. So there's quite a few different races listed there, as well as weaponry and all that. So D6 Holocron had gone through whoever is behind all of this, which they deserve all the credit because I'm kind of piggybacking on a lot of their stuff. Um, they must have actually run this as a regular campaign that they had created all this stuff, which is very, very nice for us to be able to look at it and for me to bring you ships that we don't typically get to see, or for other people that, okay, you know, that just say it in this regard, D6 Star Wars, or even if you grab D6 Space, D6 Space, D6 Adventure, and D6 Fantasy, because West End Games does not exist, that's all free to use. So in that regard, um, you could download the books, you could play this all for free, you can just get these stats, and then your friends or whoever else, you know, they don't have to spend the money. And outside of raiding Monopoly for some dice or wherever else you want to get some dice, which isn't overly expensive, there's not a big cost on this. And that's one of the other reasons why I think it's nice bringing all this out in the D6 format. For those that want to get into it but don't really want to spend the money, unlike Dungeons and Dragons, where you need your DMG, your Dungeon Master's Guide, your Player's Handbook, and the Monster Manual. Once you have those, you can make your own adventures. This is all free, and you could grab whatever else and make adventures out of that. So that's the real enjoyment that I have to try and bring this to you because I know it's a free thing, even though I've got a lot of the books because I bought them many years ago. Um, it's still kind of nice. So with that being said, thank you so very much for joining me today. It's always wonderful having you stop by. Hope you have a wonderful day, and we will see you in the next video.